latest Magic Showcase detailed what we can expect from Magic in 2022 and beyond, and it is fair to say that the rules for direction and design are being radically rewritten. So, how does all this affect us Vorthos, and what are we hyped for in 2022? Welcome to Magic the Flavouring, the Magic the Gathering podcast, where we talk about all things Magic flavour design and lore. I'm your host, Andy Mann.
Hello, this is Nathan Cancel.
And we have got quite a lot to talk about today. This week was the Magic 2021 showcase for all of the sets and upcoming nonsense coming up in Magic 2022, and some of the stuff coming up at the end of the year as well. They've been doing these showcases sort of semi-regularly now, where they do sort of like it's almost like a television show production thing, and they get Jimmy Wong on and they do some like jokes and some gags, and they show off a trailer and they show off some cool bits and bobs. It's cheesy as heck. It's maybe a little bit lame in certain places, but in other places, like, the intentions are pretty good. And yeah, I think they're starting to really want to get involved in showing off what they've got, as opposed to just announcing it on social media. They announced a shit ton, didn't they?
Yeah, just a few things, just one or two things. Yeah,
yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's crazy, but yeah, there's plenty to talk about. It's always like an expo, which is what I quite liked.
An expo, like, there we go. Yeah.
If you liked a bit of this, if you like a bit of that, I mean, it talks about arena support. It talked about everything from sets we're releasing this year to a Netflix show. So yeah, like a lot of shit to talk about.
Yeah, for sure. We are going to use as our source today, just because it's nice and convenient, the What Happened in Magic Showcase 2021 by Adam Stabolski, which is the article that basically just breaks down everything that happened in the showcase. So that's the kind of format we're going to go through. So if you want to follow along with us, that's what we're using as our kind of just our structure. But obviously our opinions will be our own. We are not just going to parrot straight from the website. We are probably not going to talk too much about Innistrad, only because that is the next set, and we will be talking a lot about it in the coming weeks. All of the information that we got from the showcase about Innistrad, we will probably just say again. We'll gloss over that a little bit. We'll talk about it a little bit. We really want to be talking about what's going to go on in Magic 2022. Before we jump into it too much, though. Yeah, exactly. Before we jump into it too much, though, I received a very special mail day this morning, literally about half an hour before we hit record. Through the letterbox in my door, I received Magic the Gathering, Planes of the Multiverse, A Visual History by Jay and Ellie, our friend from the Vorthos cast, and obviously, like, the prominent Vorthos historian in Magic today. Massive thanks to Jay for sending this over. Like, really, really appreciate it. And the book is just absolutely beautiful. If you haven't sort of seen what these books are, Jay also recently did Magic the Gathering Legends, A Visual History, where it was a sort of, it's kind of like a coffee table book for all of the different legendary characters and prominent characters in Magic the Gathering. This one, Planes of the Multiverse, as the name suggests, is all the planes of the multiverse. And I'm literally, you can hear that, I'm literally opening the book for the first time now whilst we're talking, and like,
that was crunchy.
That was good, wasn't it? I mean, these books are absolutely beautiful, and not only are there the planes in the multiverse, but it also breaks down things like the prominent characters on those planes that maybe didn't make it into Legends, because obviously there's only so many pages you can really have. And I was listening to the Vorthos cast, and Jay was talking about the fact that the book is structured so that once you reach the end of the book, if you were to read it from start to finish, information that you got from characters and settings nearer the start of where he's structured it will inform things at the end. So if you want to jump to, say, Zendikar is at the back and so is Kamigawa, but you would probably want to read like from the beginning all the way through to the back, if that makes sense. Which is, Jason Rainville and Sam Burley did the artwork for the front and back of the dust jacket, which is absolutely fantastic. I would suggest picking this up. In the UK, it's not impossible to get in the UK. I got Legends, A Visual History from WH Smith's in the UK, but I had to order it from their online store. I don't know if they're in store, because quite frankly, I got it around the time that shops weren't open. But yeah, these books are awesome. They're really cool for any Vorthos or any person who's maybe wants to get into Magic lore but doesn't want to scroll through endless pages on the wiki. Like, these books are really handy, and also they are. I mean, they're a piece of Magic history.
Why would you want to do that? It's so much fun.
It is a lot of fun, but sometimes you want something like physical that you can like literally pick up and kind of like read through like a tome. And these are exactly that. I mean, the Legends book was so much fun, and there was just, I mean, I'm flicking through it like literally in front of me now. It's from everyone from like Mazarek to Fibblethip to all the legendary dragons, and there's like concept art in there as well for a lot of these things, which you don't see anywhere else, which is really really special. So yeah,
Amazing.
check them out. Like, I can't recommend these books highly enough. And yeah, again, thank you so much, Jay and Ellie. Right, let's get on to the matter at hand. Sorry, let's talk a little bit about Innistrad then, because they did talk about it, right?
Yeah, I mean, they started by basically kind of almost like, I guess, because it only seemed like yesterday that we got last year's showcase, and I kind of forgot that, oh yeah, did they talk about Crimson Vow? And they did, obviously, but I mean, this is, I think, my favourite time of year because you just get to have speculation abound. And they kind of confirmed a couple of things, but not really anything. I think the first previews are on, I think it's Monday, isn't it? Or Tuesday, sorry, the second, right? Yeah, I think the thing I want to talk about just briefly is that the theme seems to be a little bit different. Like, I guess instead of piling everything into one Innistrad set, and you have to kind of do the doom and gloom as well as like the human side, as well as like the chaosy kind of devil side. I like the fact they're splitting it almost into like a folk horror for the Midnight Hunt, and then Crimson Vow seems to be a bit more highbrow, a bit more like, as they say in the showcase, decadent. You know, it's opulent kind of party kind of typical underworld. If you watched Underworld and things like that, vampires are like super hoity-toity, take themselves very seriously, kind of thing. Whereas something like the werewolf side is a bit more grounded. It's a bit more visceral. You know, like the horror aspects of that. So I like the fact they're splitting them because it kind of can give each. It's almost like it's almost like a block of Innistrad where you can actually get different themes of horror instead of just going, oh, let's just chuck a load of tropes together, and yeah, it's kind of horror themed-ish. You know, I guess it's nice to have that kind of separation. Between the two, and I like the idea of that folklore, that Wicker Man almost kind of feeling that we get on was it Join the Party? I can't remember the first card we had previewed, but we had a couple of cards previewed, and there's a white green enchantment that or sorcery or whatever that's about these villagers kind of, you know, kind of going, hey, join our cult, and it's like, oh, okay, I forgot that's kind of about Innistrad that I really liked, not the Eldrazi's turning werewolves into even weirder werewolves, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just whatever kind of massive horror trope they want to do for that set. It's like the original Innistrad was very Hammer horror and very sort of classic bump in the night stuff. Like Shadows over Innistrad was obviously all like Cthulhu and cosmic horror getting mixed in there. And yeah, this one, as you say, is kind of going back to folk horror, and then maybe a little bit more of the Hammer horror stuff with the vampires. But yeah, I really dig it. I think it's going to be cool. There is a product called Innistrad Double Feature, which will be a draft set, which will be basically both of them combined, and they're going to have a special art treatment, which seems to be like all of the Hammer horror sort of black and white aspect of it, and like all the typography and everything of the double feature is all very sort of classic 19 sort of 30s through to like 1970s horror sort of tropes. And I just want to say, fucking called it. I absolutely said that they would be doing like some kind of black and white, you know, Boris Karloff, Frankenstein's, you know, a horror thing, and that's exactly what they're doing. So, you know, just saying, absolutely called that. Yeah, we will talk way more about Innistrad when it comes up. A lot of the concept art and a lot of the key art that's coming out looks absolutely fantastic. Olivia Volduren looks fucking rad. Like everything that she's on, she just looks absolutely amazing. Like the costumes and stuff. So yeah, I can't wait. I mean, obviously I'm here for the werewolves, but I absolutely can't wait to see Olivia Volduren again.
No.
Like, to get another Olivia card. Oh my gosh. It's gonna be so good. But yeah, cool. And there's, you know, some challenger decks, and there's, you know, there's another billion secret layer drops, and we'll probably have to talk about them at some point. Oh, and obviously Commander Collection Black.
Well, these are the two things, right? Like the secret layer drop. We'll get to like there's I think it's 6 of them total, including like the cat one that they didn't mention, and then Commander Collection Black. We'll talk about Commander Collection Black specifically because one, I think they've done a really really good job. They've updated some of the flavor to it anyway. I think it's something we can talk about in isolation a bit more because there's plenty of other things we can gloss over today a little bit more.
For sure. But let's get to the meat of the situation. Let's get to the thing that we're actually here to talk about, and that is Magic 2022. So, I mean, there is something to be said for like just shoving products down our throat, but they generally announce what next year's thing is going to be sort of around this time every year, so I don't feel too bad about it. Obviously, we're still hyped for Innistrad. Strixhaven seems like a billion years ago, doesn't it?
Right. Doesn't it always feel a million years ago since the last set? Because we're already looking at, this is the thing, like it ended on, I think, something like, Lord of the Rings, and that's going in 2023. It's like we're already looking technically 2 years ahead. It's like, can we just can we wait a second, please? But it's
mm.
fine. It's okay. Whatever.
So
Keep on trucking.
the four mainline sets for quarters 1, 2, 3, and 4 for 2022. Oh my gosh. We have first up Kamigawa Neon Dynasty.
Yeah, buddy.
Unbelievable. Quarter 2 is going to be Streets of New Capenna. I hope I'm saying that right. I can't think of any other way to say it. Quarter 3 is Dominaria United. And then quarter 4 is The Brothers War. What the ever-loving fuck?
Yeah, so there's a lot of shit to break down, even just by names here. Like, okay, we've only got like I think a couple of images for each of these sets. Like, they haven't released any other kind of information about it, what the overarching story might be. The only thing we kind of know is that Kamigawa is now taking place in the modern day. So it's about I think it's 1,200 to 2,000 years in the future from when we saw the set before. Obviously, we're getting a new plane with Streets of New Capenna. The fact we're going back to Dominaria, and then the fact that they're actually willing to do a set in the past, which I'm pretty sure we have said in the last year, like, I really want this to happen, they're never going to do it. And then they went, nah, yeah, we're going to do it.
Yeah, a lot of the things that we wanted are absolutely happening. All right, so let's talk about Kamigawa first up then, whilst we're here. So first up we have Kamigawa. Yeah, the last time we were there was actually, I mean, Kamigawa was kind of set in the past in itself, right? Like, if you
Yes.
if Magic has any sort of like timeline that it really sticks to, considering it's a multiverse, Kamigawa was actually a set that was several thousand years in the past, quote unquote. So anything that they were going to do if they were to come back to Kamigawa, I think was always going to be different. I think that they were never going to do Kamigawa the way that Kamigawa was initially. They were never ever going to go back to like, you know, spirits and, you know, samurais and ninjas in that kind of classic feudal Japan sense. So it's quite incredible that not only are they going back to Kamigawa, but they're doing so in like fantasy sci-fi. Like, it's like Blade Runner and cyberpunk, but it's still magic as well. Like, I mean, if you've seen any of the artwork from this, so there's a Brian Solar key art, pardon me, which shows what looks to be a warrior. I'm remiss to say, I wouldn't say either a ninja or a samurai, because I don't know. But there's a warrior with a little origami raccoon on their shoulder, but everything's like on neon signs, and there's, you know, it just looks, it doesn't look like magic, but at the same time, I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how they fuse it. It reminds me of the Neo Tokyo level from Time Splitters 2, which I think is
Yeah,
one of my favorite levels. The fact that, yeah, as you pointed out, the fact they've even keeping things like an origami raccoon alongside this kind of like, they've got like the fact it's neon. Obviously, give it away. There's neon signs and stuff going on. The fact it's almost like this clash of classic, almost like old school traditional history, and then like the super futurism. Where that super futurism is coming from, that's going to be really interesting to find out. I think there's an idea that I think maybe, I don't necessarily know if the entire plane is going to be like it. It might just be something like where the capital cities in like some place like Japan, like a super futuristic. You travel an hour out and you still get back to like the old roots and the traditional buildings and that kind of thing. They might do a fusion of both, so you can still get all of your tropes and everything from the original Kamigawa, but they update it in a way that makes you go, "This is something new and exciting and bold." I love bright neon colors. Anyway, I'd never expected them to actually go balls deep on it, and it looks like they're going to. And we have another image. Floating about that's got it almost looks like Boseiju in the far back corner. It almost looks like Midgar, Midgar from Final Fantasy VII, where it has like the different like reactors around it, and it kind of gives me those super like early 1990s vibes of like, oh, it's like, yeah, as you say, like steampunk kind of neo dystopian future thing, but it's also going to have its traditional roots. Like, I'm so excited. I think because they said for so long that they weren't going to go back to Kamigawa because they knew they wouldn't be able to do the same thing again, because either people liked it because of their nostalgia, right? But the actual play style of the format and the sets themselves weren't necessarily, they didn't go over very well. And a lot of people were like, it's not a set we need to go and see again. The fact they're willing to do it means I think they've probably put a lot of thought into how to make this not only reinvigorate it for new players, but also give it good homage for those that still hold it dear in their hearts. So yeah, I'm really excited.
Sci-fi in Magic the Gathering to this extent, yes or no?
Phyrexians, dude.
Like, I mean, that's what I've always been sort of
right
on. Yeah,
like we already had Borg. I mean, come on, like I think it's fine. I mean, again, it depends on how they handle it. It depends on how they justify it. There might even be a Phyrexian influence because, as we address the elephant in the room, apparently we're not going to Phyrexia this year, Andy.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah.
But saying that, I think there's probably, with now Vorinclex is officially at Strixhaven, I think there's a chance that maybe their influence is spreading a little bit, and this is why we've seen Kamigawa have a bit of a jump in technology.
Kaldheim.
That's my Kaldheim. What did I say?
Strixhaven.
How? Why?
I don't know.
No idea.
Famously, there wasn't a Phyrexian on Strixhaven, much to the annoyance of a lot of people.
Exactly. Well, I think I think the idea will be here where we see some of the sets in this next year kind of influenced by that kind of in the background kind of thing. The thing we didn't think they were going to do, which is a large sweeping story arc, they're not going to do a big everything's incorporated together, but they'll probably have little hints going through the year before they maybe have a big climax on a well-known plane on their 30th anniversary. Who knows? So yeah, I'm interested to see where this technology comes from.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so if this is set 2,000 years after the initial Kamigawa block, does that mean that this is Kamigawa as it is like today in Magic?
Yes, and I guess there was an argument, right, that certain planes have different time, the way the time works differently on them, because the Ixalan and Dominaria story didn't necessarily work together properly in terms of timescale unless one of them has an accelerated time rate. Beyond all of that timey-wimey stuff, yes, this is supposed to be set now. We're going to see an Emperor. That's a known character. I'm just going to say it's Tezzeret. I mean, I always think every big bad's going to be Tezzeret, and I just love the idea if he was
sometimes a head judge,
a head judge of the console out of nowhere. How did he get there? And now it's like Emperor of Kamigawa. How did he get there? Timey-wimey stuff. Don't worry about it. But yeah, I think this is supposed to be set now. This is going to be currently relevant. The characters we see will be affecting the storyline as it's happening now.
I think it's going to be Raf Kafashin. He got pissed off being the kicking boy for the Weatherlight. He was like, no, I'm a mage and I'm really cool and I don't want to live in my sister's shadow anymore. Yeah. And he nicked a planes hopping ship, I don't know, and he went to Kamigawa and he became
I just love the idea of like, hey, do you know what Gerard never was? A planeswalker. I am, bitch. Yeah, that'd be great. I don't know if they'll go that route.
Yeah, for sure. Yes. Next up, we have Streets of New Capenna. It's a 1920s Art Deco mob set plane. How would you what's going on here?
Right, right? Like, it's almost like they went spaghetti, chuck it, and then fuck it, chuck some cannoli at the wall and some penne pasta. What can we get to stick? It turns out everything can stick. This is really interesting. We don't know what this plane is. It's not been named. It's previously undiscovered, though apparently it has special significance to Elspeth. Now, I don't think this is the plane that we know that she comes from that was Phyrexianized with a different faction than the new Phyrexians. So again, I don't think that's all tying in, but it's quite interesting that it's a city built by angels that now seems to have fallen to the demon clans. Now, as a premise, that sounds sick.
That is really, really cool.
But also Obnixilis is going to be involved, apparently.
Yeah, well,
I don't understand how he can go from... Yeah, which I love it. But the only thing I worry about is that it's a bit of a random left field. So last time we saw him, he was curb stomping the Gatewatch on Zendikar, right? You know, he was drowning Gideon in a puddle, and then suddenly he's like, "Yo, I'm gonna bounce. I've got some mobs to run." So I'm interested to see him get a bit more vocal, because his idea is conquering planes, and now he's willing to sit and have a feud across the cityscape that used to be run by angels. I'm really interested to see where and why and how he happens to be there.
I mean, he's the classic sort of cackling demon villain, isn't he? Next to Tybalt, that's the role he fills, but he's got a bit more class than Tybalt, I suppose. So I think this is right up his street, because he's all about domination and
he's wearing pinstripes.
He's got like a suit on. He's got like a monster suit on with armor, which is amazing.
So cool.
I mean, how much more like classy demon can you be than to beat other demons in a game of like gang warfare? Like, I think that's like to be like the top demon on a plane. That's like all about, I mean, the classic 1920s, flapper dapper, Gatsby party vibe. And I'm also really excited to see a villain as the kind of protagonist. I really hope they keep the villain as the protagonist. I hope this isn't like a bait and switch where it's like, oh, Obnixilis is going to be the main character, and then fucking Jace turns up and he's like, "Oh no, it's really my story." It's like,
Well,
back off.
this is where they put the Elspeth in, right? And I'm like, oh, don't just come in and save the day. You were busy doing other things. Like, why'd you have to come and ruin Ob's day?
Well, actually, I wouldn't mind that so much. Well, do you know what? I'm going to backtrack slightly to my previous statement. Sorry, Jace fans. The way that they did it in Shadows over Innistrad, where Jace was kind of just in the background doing a thing, but he wasn't necessarily like the guy. Like it was still Avacyn and Sorin and Nahiri's story, really. A little bit as well, like Zendikar Rising. Like Zendikar Rising did a similar thing where we were worried that they were going to make it all about like the sort of hero guy again, and actually no, it was about Nahiri and Nissa's kind of feud. So maybe if they did have Elspeth coming in the background, trying to be almost like the cop, the sort of grizzled detective that's trying to take down the mob, but really we focus on the 5 families and we focus on Ob Nixilis. Like I think that would be fine. But I really want the villain to be the protagonist. It's always so much more interesting.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And this is clearly a set about mobsters. I don't need it to be about cops, you know? So yeah. The design of the demon, so there's a Yongei Choi key artwork, which shows Ob Nixilis standing over the body of a defeated demon, what I'm guessing is another mob boss. And the kind of fur-lined jacket that the other demon mob boss is wearing is really, really cool. Like I think it's really funny seeing demons in like modern-ish dress. I always think that's a cool aesthetic. So yeah, I'm a little bit worried that this is going to feel very Ravnica-ish.
I was thinking the same thing. It's very Dimir, right? It feels like the last time we went to Ravnica Allegiance, and it felt very much like that kind of that moody, noir-y kind of film. Maybe they saw that was good, and they were like, well, we can't expand it too much in Ravnica without making it just all about the Dimir, which for a lot of the sets, it was kind of revolving around them anyway. So maybe they were like, okay, let's take this idea, we kind of like it, let's expand it into a whole city and just base the entire set around it. That might have been kind of where it came from.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think it's going to be very cool. I'm excited to see another cityscape plane because this does seem very cityscape. I can't imagine there's going to be too much room for like seas and fields and whatever else. Unless I don't know, in some mob films you usually have those times where they take like a body out to like the surrounding countryside and like they dump it.
Gonna swim with the fishes, right?
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. So maybe they will. Maybe they'll have a couple of bits of that. But yeah, very excited. I think it's such a fresh idea for a plane.
Yeah, I hope we just get a snitch.
They're really swinging for the fences. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want some typical tropes. I want like the snitch. I want it to feel a bit like Bugsy Malone. I like the idea of like they wake up like there's a picture of one of the images is someone like who wakes up with like a horse's head, but it's not a horse's head. It's like a centaur head. Well, that doesn't make sense because that'd just be a normal human
unicorn head.
You know what I mean? I just like yeah. Oh, even better. Oh, amazing. Yes, we did it. Hire us, wizards.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, very exciting. I can't wait to see Ob Nixilis back in the game. He looks bloody awesome. And yeah, good also to have a 3-color set. 3-color sets are always fun. Even the bad ones are good. Do you know what I mean? Like, because they're always much more interesting.
Well, we haven't done shards properly since Alara, which was a long time ago now, and I'm interested to see how they do like Naya demons. Like the other 4 shards are quite easy to justify. Obviously, Grixis just writes itself. Esper again writes itself because you could even have like it's the kind of place where Davriel could technically work, with contracts and that kind of thing, like trying to double down and deal back. His twirly mustache kind of artwork that we saw from the historic Masters double Jumpstart Horizons. Whatever the set was, yeah, that kind of thing. I can see that fitting in there. The Naya one, however, I wonder if they're more carnal, a bit more bestial. Again, I'm interested. I'm curious. It should be really fun.
Yeah, for sure. All right, next up we have Dominaria United. We're going back to Dominaria.
We are. As I said, 30th anniversary, right? Mm-hmm. So it makes sense. Curious though, and this is the thing that's going to be that's kind of maybe needs some justification. Because my big thing is, why did they do? Because if Dominaria United is what I think it's going to be, it's going to build up. They're underselling it, right? They're not giving too much away. But why would it be United? Why would the entirety of Dominaria be United if it wasn't against like an extra plane of threat? I think obviously we know where I'm kind of likely going with this. But then if it does lead to that big battle and that big fight, why do we then in the set afterwards go back in time instead of going first Brothers War? Oh, remember this part of history that you might not know too much about. Obviously, we've done like a Tron Lands video where I had to try and break down like the glut of history and try and condense it into 10 minutes, which is really fucking difficult. Like, so if they're going to have this big like cataclysmic event, everyone has to kind of come towards, and it's like a big battle. it's weird that we then go afterwards go, oh, well, let's have a look at what happened back in the day. Instead of going, let's have a look at what happened back in the day, kind of reintroduce you to some characters that we might see throwbacks to in Dominaria United. Maybe it gives us some reasoning or some justification from that era that helps in the future set of Dominaria United. It's weird that we're going to have what I think is a big culmination, a big clash, and then afterwards they go, oh, also, remember the last time this happened? Yeah, let's go and have a look at that. So that's my only kind of curiosity in the way that they did that around. It'll probably make sense at the time. It just seems strange that they're going to do modern Dominaria and then in the set afterwards go, oh, sure, but then let's also look how this all started, maybe, instead of doing it the other way around. I don't know how you feel about that.
I think Dominaria United is going to set up for next year. So I think it won't happen. The big sort of battle won't happen in Dominaria United. It will be the setup. But a lot of the key information will. So we're saying that it's going to be like another Phyrexian invasion of Dominaria, or like there's going to be, or the people of Dominaria, because obviously we've got like the Weatherlight. We will see all like the Weatherlight crew again, hopefully, because I really like them. They will sort of be like, oh no, the Phyrexians are starting to like build power across all the different planes. We've got to do something. Teferi, come Vorp our ship across. Oh no, Kaya can Vorp the fucking Weatherlight across.
Oh my god.
Confirmed to be able to bring other people through to different planes. She can do a ship.
That'll make it way powerful if she can fucking Vorp a whole Weatherlight and crew
Ghost form
along.
Weatherlight.
Oh, okay, don't give me hope.
Okay, so my prediction is Dominaria United is going to set up for next year's big Phyrexian story arc, but there's going to be key stuff in that set that will be referencing things like the Brothers' War. So then they'll do the Brothers' War. It's like when they do that thing in anime where they'll have like some big secret thing which no one really knows about, and it's like usually the MacGuffin of the first couple of series, and then in the third series they spend like an episode just following like the protagonist's dad 20 years ago as he was like a young researcher. I'm thinking, I don't know why in my head I'm thinking of Attack on Titan and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. But there's always like that past episode where you see flashbacks and it informs all the thing. So I think
your questions get answered kind of thing.
Yeah. I think there's going to be something in the Brothers' War which directly affects Dominaria. And as you say, rather than doing it beforehand, they'll do it afterwards so that you have a bigger context for what's just happened and what's going to happen next year.
Okay,
that's giving the Wizards, I was going to say Wizards narrative team, but to be honest with you, I'm sure they would do it if they could. That's giving Wizards, like broadly speaking, a lot of credit for having that kind of storytelling prospect. But they have done wilder things in the past, and I think there are certain things which they've done in the past. There's a couple of examples that I'm trying to think of I can't bring to mind, but the way that they've told stories I think has actually been rather undersold.
Like the Nicobolus throwback, right?
Yeah.
From Amonkhet, where we found out like, oh my god, there were 3 and he took all the gods and then he repurposed these 3. That kind of throwback of being like, oh, okay, we get some context to how everything is now, and then the penny drops
around him, like, you know. So yeah, I think this is cool. I do think it's strange that we're doing 2 sets on Dominaria essentially. But yeah, I have no idea about any of the key art from Dominaria. I mean, Dominaria is probably one of my least knowledged planes for me personally. So when we went back there it was the 25th anniversary that we went there for.
It was, yeah,
wasn't it? That set was brilliant. I was learning as I went with that set as well, so it was kind of nice to do that. So hopefully I'll get the same experience again. But yeah, there's a Sarah Finnegan key art on the website that looks absolutely amazing.
Giant Thran portal. And this is the question. Maybe it's not Dominaria waiting for the invasion to come to them. Maybe it's Dominaria bringing the fight to Phyrexia. Because this looks like what I think it's going to be. Portal. Like the size of this, if scale wise, there's like a stream and a waterfall kind of ahead of, in front of it. This thing is colossal. Like this is like it's got to be 60, 70 stories high at least, by building standards. But yeah, it's huge. It's giant, and it's got like a little shining, shimmery thing in the middle of it. Makes me feel like maybe they awaken these Thran portals, and then then maybe go to look at the Brothers' War to be like, oh, that's where it was built. Oh, I guess Urza wasn't a complete and utter toolbox. I mean, even though he is, like, maybe he did do some cool things and leave an option for our victory in the future, as it were. So yeah, I don't necessarily see this as a negative giant portal. I feel almost like it's like a saving negative portal. I'd love to see Dominaria go
heroic.
To
it doesn't look Phyrexian,
right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Cool. Dominaria United should be very interesting. And then we've already spoken about it quite a lot, but the last main set is going to be the Brothers' War.
which again, I'm so surprised they went there. Like again, I've said this a few times. Of like, I don't expect them to do sets set in the past, but it's something I really want to see because it's a wealth of. You don't have to create a new plane. You don't have to create new characters. You go. We didn't get to do this well enough back in the day. I think they did some coverage of this war in antiquities, but I mean, again, this is back when Magic didn't really know kind of what it was doing or how to handle its story effectively, or to give like good weighting to their characters. Obviously, we're likely to get new Mishra cards. We're likely to get a new Urza card, specifically before he turned into a planeswalker, before he got Glacian Spark. So this isn't going to be like, oh, well, how are they going to balance Urza? It's like, well, he's still going to be a dude. They'll probably learn from their last iteration of Urza, maybe not to make him super, super, super powerful. Obviously, good point. This is all standard legal sets, by the way, these 4 sets. But even the artwork by Leon Tucker, the concept art, is Urza walking through like a giant chamber with mechs on like these war machines that we've spoken about, that we've seen remnants of, even like Krug, Traxos, sorry, Scourge of Krug, like the dragon engines. We're going to see actual dragon engines from the day. You know, they're going to see them building these 2 giant colossal armies to throw at each other. It's such classic sci-fi. Because it's funny how you started the beginning episode saying like Magic doing sci-fi. It's like, yes, the fucking Brothers War. They did this already years ago, and they're doing it again. Like you can't just stay in, you know, Lorwyn-y, Eldraine-y planes all the time. Otherwise, Magic feels its scope feels really limited, right? When initially the scope of Magic was everything from Homelands to fucking Thran technology. So yeah, I think it's going to be really cool. It's a great way to inject a bunch of knowledge back into the current demographic that are playing, the people that, you know, that don't have time to research like we do. The kind of also a lot of the concepts that maybe were muddied a bit much. They were like, okay, let's try and focus down on them. Let's give them some definition, as well as giving some throwbacks and going to a lot of players going, I want to see more of this, and we're never going to go and see it. It's like, well, actually, we're going to go back and see it. Don't worry, we're going to tick all of those boxes, all those characters you loved. We're likely to get, you know, maybe Gix or people like that. You know, I've been saying this for years as well. Maybe we'll eventually get a Gix card. Who knows? But yeah, the concept art just looks so imposing and so intimidating. And in terms of stakes, they kind of already know what happens, so they can kind of just go balls to the walls and just make it a super crazy, like violent set if they want to, because it doesn't matter about the fallout, because we already know the fallout. So it's quite nice that they can have this isolated thing where they can do true to the story, but also kind of give us a bit more flamboyance and expand on it a bit more. So I'm really happy with that.
There's Chris Rahn concept art as well that they released for it, which shows Mishra and Urza like going at each other on the battlefield, and that absolutely looked fucking brilliant. And I hope we get a really, really cool Mishra card as well, because Mishra deserves a new decent card. Yeah, I agree. I think the thing that I think I spouted out on social media is that I'd like to see like a draft set, or like maybe like a dual deck where they do like these moments in history. So they do things like the Brothers War. I never thought they'd do a full set, and that's pretty amazing. And I'm all here for it as well. I don't mind giving up a new plane that maybe doesn't get enough lip service, or going back to an old plane just for a new storyline. Like I'm excited to go back to Innistrad, but the story will have to be really good. Otherwise, it's just gonna be like, oh, they just did that again. Like I'm not, like Ravnica Allegiance and Guilds of Ravnica were fine, but that's because they were building up to War of the Spark, right? So that's why they had their kind of fresh blood. If it was just yet another the guilds are fighting situation, it would have felt a bit played out. Zendikar Rising, as much as I love Zendikar Rising, I actually didn't necessarily connect with the storyline maybe as much. Maybe I remember at the time really, really liking Zendikar Rising, but I think looking back on it, I think we could have not gone back to Zendikar and would have been absolutely fine. So I'm all for doing these like little individual moments in history where we see these big battles. Like the next Kaldheim set they do, I would absolutely love to see the battle between the Einir and the Scoti. Like that'd be brilliant. I think that'd be fantastic. So yeah, or like as we said about the Blood Age on Strixhaven.
Right. Like, this is the thing. This is opening the door to a lot of retroactive storytelling, and not in the kind which kind of ruins the canon and it retcons a lot of things. Like that's not the kind of thing we're talking about. But it's exactly as you say, is what a lot of people I've seen talk about, which is this. Once you go back 3 times, unless you're doing something new, like with Zendikar, the whole point was the initial set was about discovery and adventuring, and then we found out about this mysterious Eldrazi, and then they kind of fucked it with Battle for Zendikar a little bit, and they made it more like Battle Plane. And then when we went back the third time, I was like, there was no more mystery. And as much as these Skyclaves were cool in concept and they looked amazing, and the whole set art-wise, mechanical-wise was great, story-wise in terms of actual relevance to everything else, as you say, it was a bit vanilla, a bit bland, very forgettable. Like, it's the same kind of deal with Kaldheim. Kaldheim, it's like, well, if you go back to Kaldheim now, do you do kind of what Theros did of like, we have to kind of force a story together? Or do you do, as you say, go, fuck it, we've already talked about this amazing time and period that this big thing happened. Let's go and have a look at that instead. And is that confusing to players? Maybe. Do you think players really care about when their sets are set in terms of time? I don't think so. And I think for story folks, it's more of an investment to see how we got to where we were with the last Kaldheim set than kind of tack on extra story onto the end of it, which kind of ruins it as a whole. But yeah, this idea of plane fatigue, I think, is very real. And it's funny that even though we are treading old ground with the Brothers' War, it doesn't feel like that. It feels like an exploration to something we will never get a chance to do. So yeah, hopefully they can do this with other planes as well. And maybe, I guess Dominaria has a wealth of background, but they can maybe find things in others, as you say, the Blood Age and the Scotia War, those kinds of things. There are pockets of storytelling that they can do with single bursts, which I think is what they should probably be doing if they're only doing one set blocks. You know, if you're going to do a block and do 2 sets on a new plane, fine, that's good. It gives us time to expand on it. Whereas if you're going to do single sets all the time, do some throwbacks, as well as just going like, hey, this is what it's like on a Wednesday. You saw it at the weekend. Here's midweek Ravnica. Isn't it exciting? Because no, it's not exciting.
So that's 2022 in terms of the main sets. We'll talk very quickly about some other stuff because there's actually, that's just the first little chunk. They did talk about so much more, so we won't probably get to spend too much time on it. But I guess next up is Unfinity.
Space! We're going to space, Andy! Yeah. I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's bubblegum, 1950s, retro futuristic is how they describe it. Space. It's unset in space, and it looks absolutely wacky and wild. And I'm sure, like most unsets, it will be very fun to look at and very fun to play. But ultimately, I don't know. I kind of feel like unsets are get a little bit forgotten because you can't really play them in any other.
Yeah, they tried, right? And even then, it was like a flash in the pan. You had a couple of months of being able to use these commanders, and they were all busted as fuck. They were really entertaining and really fun. And obviously, there is a big hook here of where they go, we're going to give you full art space shocklands, so your packs are still relevant in your regular day-to-day playing. But yeah, I know what you mean. It's like crayons, right? They're really fun to draw with, but realistically, you just need a pen if you want to write something down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it'll be fine. I think it will have a lot of nice little like flavor nods. I mean, the Simon Dominic key art. There's about 3 Ajanis in it. And there's a Nicol Bolas. There's all these different kind of little bits and bobs.
I think there's even Fibblefip. There's a Fibblefip in the back on the right, Andy. Amazing. Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do for it.
What a dead joke.
Oh, God. It's not. It's still look, it excited me, all right? Okay. Fuck you.
They gave him a card that killed it.
That's true. They should never have given him a card. He should have always just been lost. Always
Hot
lost
take.
in the background.
They should have never given Fibblethip a card.
Yeah, as soon as you give him a card, he's found. He's no longer lost. You know, it's the Blex. It's the Blex problem. You can't put him in search of Blex on the backside of Blex. You've already fucking found it. Anyway, rants aside.
Cool. Next up, we have Dungeons & Dragons: Battle for Baldur's Gate Commander Legends. Well, that's a big old title for a
That's
set
a lot
of cards,
of words. Yeah, really. What a mouthful. Which do you go for? Just Battle of Baldur's Gate, Commander Legends 2, or D&D 1.5?
Yep.
God, come on, Wizards.
So it's a D&D draft set, like how they did. Obviously, they've just had the Adventures in the Forgotten Realms as a main set, and now they're doing the draft set, and it will be a Commander Legends set to boot. So I guess you're building Commander decks or the kind of draft Commander decks, but using Dungeons & Dragons cards. Sure.
Yeah.
I don't. How do we tackle this? Do we go, yay, I'm so excited, or do we go, we'll see, or like it's, yeah, I don't know. I'm not that excited by it, but I'm sure a lot of people are, and it'll be fantastic for them.
Well, Baldur's Gate was like a really poignant part of D&D lore, right? They made games based on it. This is where Mints came from. Like, it's almost like they took the expansiveness of D&D and they went, okay, we know that's successful. Let's focus in on one specific thing so we can do it proper justice. And even just looking at the concept art by Camilla Zutenberg, there's like a kind of Kraken-y spaceship, which I'm sure I'm supposed to know what that is. I don't. Does it change how interesting it looks to me? No. Is it the fact that it's sat behind like a normal ship in the docks? I'm like, well, that's a strange
D&D fans, we have no idea what that awesome thing is.
I mean, it is really cool artwork, and I find it very intriguing. And of course, it's a Commander Legends set. We're bound to go balls deep into it because it's kind of it's made for us, as it were.
New
Yeah,
mechanics as well. Looks pretty cool.
this is the thing. It's going to be interesting. And again, I don't mind having a focused storyline will be easier for us to break down anyway, rather than having like, hey, remember D&D? This game that's been around for decades. Here's a set that spans the entirety of it. Good luck breaking that down, lads. And then they're going,
Yeah. I don't know why. So when they did Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, I still absolutely have no issue with it, and I think it's really exciting and it looks really fun. I didn't get to play a whole bunch of it, but I still stand by all my critique of it beforehand, where I was like, this looks like it's a really cool set, and I'm really happy they did it, and there's absolutely no problem whatsoever. For me, that was more exciting to dive into. Like my interest in Dungeons and Dragons lore, as much as I have played and do occasionally play Dungeons and Dragons, my interest in its lore, I think this is now my limit. Like, Commander Legends was brilliant because it gave us new characters and old characters that we're excited to see because we're Magic the Gathering fans. I don't know enough or really have as much investment in the D&D lore to then have an ancillary set, which I would then, like, you can't really play it on its own outside of a draft. It then goes into your Commander decks. Like, it worked, Adventures in the Forgotten Realms seemed to work because it was a self-contained set that you could then play in Standard. I don't know, maybe I'm not giving it enough credit because it is still draftable, but yeah, I will see. I think this is now my limit with Dungeons and Dragons. Fantastic for the people who love it. For me personally, I could take it or leave it, I think.
Yeah, I think it's strange they went back so quickly. That was the only thing that I was like, oh, okay. But did we just have D&D? It's almost like they didn't have enough time to know if it went over well and people enjoyed it enough to be able to go, oh, let's do this again. And there's a good chance that if they do it again and it didn't prove popular, they're kind of stuck with a set that, I guess for that reason, they'll probably make it exciting in other ways, but I agree. Like, it felt like, oh, okay, we're going doing more D&D? All right, okay. I mean, again, not an issue with it, but didn't expect it, and doesn't light my fire, you know? But hey.
We will see.
Yeah.
Next up, Double Masters 2022. Not much to say about this. They did Double Masters. It was great. They're doing it again. And I'm sure it will be great again. Amanatu has been confirmed to be in the set, or at least they're using the Seb McKinnon artwork for Amanatu alongside the set, so it'd be very strange if she wasn't in there. Yeah. I hope we get another artwork for Amanatu. I hope she's one of the box toppers, because, I mean, Seb McKinnon it's obviously brilliant. The printing of the card is dog shit. They took, I mean, for anyone who has a copy of Amanatu the Fate Shifter, because that was a commander deck that I ran for a long time before I realised it was way too mean. No shade to people who still play Amanatu the Fate Shifter. It was too mean for me. The printing for that particular artwork is so dark you can't see anything. It's almost like a black card just from like in the art box. Like, there's no contrast, there's no definition, there are no highlights. I don't know what they did to the printing. It's like they have the same issue with Queen Marchesa.
Yeah, I was going to say. Yeah, exactly.
That Chris Run artwork is actually really bright in places, and for some reason the printing on that card is utter horseshit. I don't know what muted. They've done. Yeah, it's really strange. So hopefully they rectify that. They won't, because they didn't for Queen Marchesa in Commander Legends, but I hope they do.
No, they made it worse.
They made it worse with the etch foiling. I mean, I like the etch foiling border, which is why I prefer the copy of that I have, because I got sent the etch foil by a friend of mine, and I prefer that to the regular printing. But they didn't fix the artwork. Yeah, Double Masters offered us a bunch of cool flavor beats and stuff with different artworks and box toppers and things like that. So hopefully they will do again. I mean, that's where we got things like the new Blightsteel Colossus and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, we'll see.
Reprint set, going to be a cool draft for format. We're in it for the cool new artworks. Yeah, it'll be a success, of course.
Jumpstart 2022. It's going to be Jumpstart 2022.
Apparently this is one of the best, like, kind of looking into a public reaction. This is one of the best products for, like, teaching people how to play the game, because you just took two very thematic packs, chucked them together, and you make a deck and it's easy to play. The problem with Jumpstart the first time around is it kind of came out during, the pandemic. So it was very difficult to get together and chuck them together. I think this is them going, we know it was going to be successful. We know that the feedback from it was great. Accessibility aside, I don't think they can really go wrong with doing this. And this is likely to, because what we haven't mentioned is that none of these are replacing the core set, and there will not be a core set next year. And whether or not they're going to do core sets at all going forwards, I'll probably come back to it eventually. But the lack of reprint equity and that kind of thing is really important with certain cards. Like, it just generally makes older cards more expensive when they're less and less likely to be reprinted. Speculation as well as actual printing. sets like Double Masters and Jumpstart is a really good way to reprint a bunch of cards, no matter how simple or alien they are from different planes and that kind of thing. So I think it's a good way, again, to keep that access point, because none of the sets that are releasing are particularly beginner friendly, whereas Jumpstart is. And again, it allows there to be reprint equity within the year that we otherwise won't see very much of, because again, Nuka Penna and Kamigawa are likely to have a bunch of reprints. Dominaria United, okay, probably will have some aspect of reprint, but again, it's plane specific, and again, Brothers Law plane specific, so we're unlikely to get a bunch of random reprints in there. So I guess this is good for that reason.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, cool artwork. Campbell
yeah.
White, Doggo doing Doggo things. Feels very 2019, but yeah, Doggo doing Doggo things.
Yeah, for sure. And then I guess second to last, because I guess there's one last little thing that we need to talk about at the very, very end. But we have Universes Beyond is kicking right up. So obviously we've had a couple of Universes Beyond things already, and we knew Warhammer was coming, so we've seen now some artwork from Warhammer 40k. There'll be 4 commander decks and a lot of Space Marines apparently. Yeah, I mean it's 40k. The aesthetic is fine. I have very little issue of them doing commander decks with Warhammer 40k. I'm very much over it. Lord of the Rings, this is the interesting one. So we were always worried about, well, not worried, we were always asking the question, are they going to be doing the film, or are they going to be doing like art taken from the books, if that makes sense? So is it going to be Ian McKellen, or is it going to be Gandalf? The answer is it's going to be Gandalf. It doesn't look like it's pulling from the films at all, which is both interesting and I think appreciated.
Yeah, very much so.
Again, only because Fantasy Flight have the rights to the Lord of the Rings card game. So I thought they would have absolutely done the films just to at least differentiate it from that. But yeah, cool. The Dimitri Burmak key art shows Gandalf at Bilbo's 11th birthday. So that looks pretty joyful and fun. Got all the little hobbits in the background. I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan, as are you, as is Kristen Gregory, who will probably be getting back on the podcast very soon to talk about this. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, this is specifically coming out in 2023. This isn't actually coming in the next year. I think they just wanted to go, you know it's coming, we're going to confirm it's coming, here's some artwork to kind of at least placate you and kind of show you that, look, we're going to be treating it with care and attention. To quickly dash back to the 40k, I think art-wise, Slavomir Maniak and Fajurika Setierwan have done really cool artwork. It feels within the realm of, it almost has that kind of Wayne Reynolds-y kind of feel. You know, like I'd be surprised if he doesn't get involved in a couple of these decks. I really liked Warhammer growing up. And as soon as I saw the Ultramarines, I was like, yeah, base, boom, Ultramarines, the boring ones. But also that's why I first started collecting. So there was this little like flutter in my heart where I saw them. I'm like, okay, I'm not actually too angry about this. Plus, contained commander decks rather than a full set. Like the Lord of the Rings will be a full set, whereas this 40k one is just isolated for commander decks. So again, it's not really going to affect you too much. It's not going to affect you any more than say like the Godzilla cards did, or the D&D set. If you really had an issue with it, Will, like it's very easy to skip over certain products when there's so much coming out. So yeah, I don't think it'll be a problem.
Lord of the Rings is also going to get commander decks and secret airdrops as well, so they're really leaning into it. We'll see. I'm not against it as a concept. Again, I don't necessarily know if I'll play with a lot of it. I mean, I bought a few D&D cards, but I wonder if that's because it's a Wizards owned thing. Maybe it won't feel quite so alien. Who knows? I am not banking on any reaction I have to these things anymore. I think it's very much I'm going to take it as it happens. So we'll see. Then we have secret layers galore. Ooh, this is where it gets real wild. And I'm glad these are secret layers. So we have 2 secret layers that have been announced that are doing crossover with other properties and are part of Universes Beyond. We have Fortnite and Street Fighter.
One of those I'm okay with. The other one I'm really not sure how I feel about.
Oh, you're happy with Fortnite, are you? Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, I fucking love Fortnite. Yeah. Street Fighter can get to fuck. No, obviously, I don't. Do you know what's really annoying is the artwork. I look at it, my eyes just go, yay. And everything else in me goes, no, why? So I'm really at odds. I don't know why this happy looking fucking, what is this happy bear thing with boobs and boots and its asses in my face, Andy? What the fuck is happening?
It is very rave, isn't it? Like for
it
Magic.
Is super rave. There's a fucking DJ rave in the background. There's confetti everywhere. Like I don't even hate it that much. I'm just confused.
It is. I didn't even necessarily think of that, but yes, this is this is actually maybe a little bit boundary pushing for the kind of sort of imagery and connotations and implications that you would have. I mean, hey, Magic players rave. You and me rave. Like we've raved a good many hours in our life, hundreds, if not more. But I would not have necessarily blended that with our love of Magic. But then again, I guess it's not rave culture, is it? It's Fortnite, and in Fortnite they have this kind of imagery. So yeah, I 100% didn't even make that connection. But yeah, you're right.
It's very odd. I mean, again, I want to see what card this is on. I think it's not going to be new cards. It's going to be reprints. So there's nothing to worry about in terms of like, you know, The Walking Dead missing out on that kind of thing, which is good. Yeah, I'm curious. Again, if they make the artwork shiny enough, I might be able to get over the fact it's fine. The thing is, I don't have any awareness of Fortnite, so I don't have like I'm not like against it or anything. I just don't have an awareness or an engagement with it, so I don't find it very offensive that it's now part of Magic. I'm just confused.
Yeah, confusion. I mean, it's like the single most popular like video game of the past sort of like decade, isn't it?
Yeah,
like, next to,
they'd
like,
be dumb
Minecraft.
if they didn't do something with it eventually.
Yeah. So there we go. There we are. And then Street Fighter for all us 80s, 90s kids.
Right.
Yeah.
They hit it's the 1-2 punch. It's like, are you young? Boom, Fortnite. Are you a little bit older? Boom, Street Fighter.
Yeah.
You know. And again, I can't argue with their marketing tactics. It worked. The fact they're giving this god multi kicker. It's just
for Chun-Li. So yeah,
Chun-Li.
Obviously they're going to have a bunch of characters. So I mean, it's going to be Ken. This is my prediction. This is actually what they said. It's going to be Ken, Ryu, Chun-Li, and E Honda. Would they do E Honda? Or no, they'd have to do M Bison.
Yeah,
it depends how many cards
stop at 4. Well, I think it's gonna be 4 or 5 likely. I think, and they'll do like obviously the big ones. Yeah, I mean, I don't have massive high expectations. I'm less confused about this one. This makes more sense as a crossover IP.
Does it?
A little bit. It's just because I just have more affinity to it. But I don't throw back to old school games. Like if they did a Spyro drop, right, and they did like all of the Elder Dragons, but as different dragons from Spyro. Okay, as I say, I kind of hate it. So no, never mind. I take it back.
Yeah, I hate that. I hate that idea.
Yeah, I hate that. I don't know. Where's the threshold on throwing it back enough that it doesn't feel like it's alien to the game?
It's Secret Lair and it's Universes Beyond. I don't think there's a threshold for anything. I think they just need to stop. I mean, well, I was about to say
that's the problem, right? If there's no threshold, good God, where else will it go?
Well, I was about to say the sentence. They would just have to make sure they don't pick IPs that aren't suitable for Magic. But then they literally the first thing they did was Walking Dead. So.
And now they're on Fortnite and Warhammer 40k, which in isolation you could argue don't feel magic-y. They will make it work, but if you were to have this discussion a couple of years ago, like, good God, you'd never even think it would be possible. I mean, eventually we're just going to get to a Magic the Gathering Secret Lair drop Magic the Gathering, and it's just going to be just old, normal cards. And it's going to feel, that's going to feel new and different. But yeah, cool. That's a lot of shit, man. That's a lot of stuff coming out. And they haven't given us like exact definitions on when all the ancillary sets are coming beyond this quarter, that quarter, this quarter. But it's probably going to go set, ancillary, set, ancillary, set, ancillary, set, as they normally do. So the whiplash will continue.
Last thing I suppose we should touch on, there's a bunch of Jumpstart and MTG Arena stuff, blah, blah, blah. The last thing we should probably touch on is the Netflix show. Now, this was something that was floating around a couple of years ago. They were like, Netflix, Russo brothers are attached. It's going. There was a bunch of like teaser art with like Chandra on the front of on everything, and like slightly different concept art for her. And then kind of went dark because obviously these TV shows often do, and they like announcing things and then they don't tend not to happen. And it seems like it's actually happening. Like things have been done. We know, for example, Gideon's going to be a character. We know Brandon Routh is going to be the voice of Gideon. That's pretty exciting. There's going to be a prequel novel that jumps into Jason Chandra. Very, very few details. Obviously, if Gideon is around, it's definitely going to be more like the Gatewatch running around, or at least the characters that are associated with the Gatewatch doing like sort of individual missions, I suppose. Or like it's not going to be part of Magic's main storyline in terms of it's not going to be now. Because if Gideon's about, unless he's just in flashbacks, I don't know.
Yeah,
we don't know.
Well, they've said there's going to be like almost like there's going to be him and Jace's kind of first interactions. Which now I think about it, I realize we didn't get a lot of them to kind of gallivanting about doing anything together. Kind of jumps.
Yeah. Oh, the novel. Sorry, the novel's about Gideon and Jace, not Chandra and Jace. Yeah.
Yeah. Being Gideon, I don't know. This is the thing that kind of I find annoying because they say that they've already scripted season 1, and I think they're looking to start scripting season 2. Now, unless they change up who they're following, Gideon's dead.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like, it annoys me that it's not necessarily going to run alongside the current storyline. I guess a little, because the current storyline's a little bit disjointed anyway, so I don't know how they'd feed it into. It kind of feels weird they're doing like a throwback to a time of a character that we know has an end. And I feel like Gideon's character kind of didn't get done dirty, but I feel like he just had about the right amount of arc to be like, oh, okay, that's a nice complete character, and I'm going to go back a little bit and fill it in. Again, I think it'll be good. Actually, that's a lie. I don't know it will be. I don't think it'll be. I think it will be. I think it's good for the story. I don't know if it'll be good as a story.
I think it will be a Magic the Gathering Netflix show.
Yeah, exactly. And everything else, I mean, what? I can't. Is it gonna be like what if level? Maybe. I don't know.
Well, there's a phrase here that they're using on this article: reimagined characters.
So maybe they won't be true to what we see them in the game. I mean, that makes sense, right? It's that they might want to find more compelling arcs and more interesting stories. Jace is a wet blanket, and they want to make him slightly more charismatic, which would be, I guess, only a good thing for Jace, right? So yeah, very, very curious. It's good to see that it's actually in its final stages and it's going to be actually coming out, and it's not just going to be like, yeah, we kind of gave up on it again. So yeah, that's really encouraging. And the guy in the showcase, he was probably the most like genuinely enthused out of everyone we saw, kind of talking about these products, which is again really encouraging.
Yeah, for sure. So there we go. What a wild year. Maybe the most ambitious that we've seen in a very, very long time.
Which comes with its own foibles and its own pitfalls, right? If you try and push the boat out too far, sometimes you get wet. So let's see. I mean, I have faith for a lot of these main sets, and I don't think as long as those get nailed, I don't really know how awry you can go with the ancillary sets before the game starts feeling like it's not going in the right direction. Again, I could very much be proven wrong. We're going into Lord of the Rings a year after. Let's see what else they do with that year. But as a full year, I'm quite excited. Some really, really cool products.
Yeah, for sure.
Space, Andy, space. We're going to space. Yeah. That's all I care about.
Yeah. Cool. Well, guys, let us know what you are most excited about of the year of 2022. Is anything sitting well for you? Do you like the idea that they're doing individual moments in Magic's history, or are you a little bit off it? Do you like the fact that they're doing like sort of fantasy sci-fi, or maybe do you think that's something that should have been left in the 90s? Do let us know via our Twitter page at mtflavouring. Emails can go to mtflavouring@gmail.com. My personal Twitter is at AndyManface. Nathan's, yours is
at the Fox in the Moon.
And yeah, again, my little sign off is to pick up the JNLE Planes of the Multiverse book, because it is. I mean, I've been flicking through it a little bit when we've been talking now, and yeah, it's very, very cool. So do check that book out. Nathan, do you have any final thoughts?
I actually have a final thought. Yeah, I this week just gone. Went to my local store, didn't have any decks with me, so I asked the guys to bring some decks along. Rolled a D20 because obviously they all brought like 8 decks each and overcompensated, and I happened to land on an unadulterated precon of Prosper. Now, if you haven't had a chance to play that deck, go get it. Holy shit, that deck is nuts. Straight out of the box, it plays so well. And it's the first time I've recently kind of come to this point where I normally only have one deck per color combination. And I've recently, over the last year, picked up a second Boris deck with Oscar, a second Orzhov deck with Brina, and now I'm probably going to pick up a Prosper deck, which shows that they're making really interesting styles of gameplay for color combinations to the point of where I can't just go, I just changed my Rakdos deck into a Prosper deck. No, I actually need to have these 2 distinctive decks. It's such a cool, fun deck. Playing out of Exile is a really, really cool mechanic. There's loads of different ways you can do it with like Madness, Cascade, all that shit. I'm just shilling on Prosper, basically. Go and get that deck. Go and have some fun with it. It's really, really engaging.
Amazing. Well,
I had a final thought, Andy.
Had a final thought.
I know. Crazy.
Well, all that remains for me to say then is thank you so much for listening. This has been Magic the Flavouring.
We'll see you soon.